Welcome. I hope you are having a wonderful night, dear viewer. Tonight, I will be telling some terrifyingly scary stories. Make sure to leave your feedback on the comments so I can make this the best experience for you. And if you have any stories you would like me to tell, you can send them through the link in the description. Let's begin. My wife Cheryl has been on the waiting list for a new heart for about 2 years. So when we got the call, we didn't hesitate to load up the car and get prepped. This was the miracle we were waiting for. The one that doctors told us not to get our hopes up for. The donor was a trucker from across state lines. Someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time with an 18-wheeler. His family insisted that having his heart used for a life-saving surgery would be exactly what he would have wanted. Cheryl was already in her hospital gown before we even reached the surgical center. I remember squeezing her hand, and we prayed together. This felt like a miracle. We didn't know it was about to become a nightmare. Her brother Max came and brought his 2 Nintendo Switches with an extra set of controllers to keep us occupied while in the waiting room. We had been playing Mario Kart for about 20 minutes when the first incident happened. This hospital is pretty small, so all of the procedures happen in the same ward, including labor and delivery. We were just on the 3rd course of the game when a strange alarm started to blare in the hallway next to us, and I jumped up, wondering what was going on. I thought at first that it might be that someone was trying to take a baby from the nursery, foolishly forgetting that the staff put bands on their legs. Instead, when I walked into the next set of double doors, I saw a woman frozen in place with a surgical knife in her left hand and a baby in her right. It looked like they had just come out of the procedure room and had just cut the umbilical cord. The baby was crying and bleeding a tad from their belly button. But the nurse was simply standing there, as though she had just forgotten what she was doing. "Miss, are you okay?" I asked, trying to shake her arm. She felt ice cold. I then turned and looked toward some of the other staff members and realized they too seemed suddenly paralyzed. Phones were dangling off the hook. Orderlies had stopped pushing one woman midway down the hall. Everything was suspended for no apparent reason. I walked back out of the ward and told Max to call the police. "Something's up. Like everyone has had a stroke or something," I muttered to him. He nodded and moved toward the elevator, trying to get it to come to our floor. Suddenly, there was a power surge. The lights flickered briefly, and Max too seemed frozen. I ran to his side, where he was now stuck in place, pressing the button for the elevator. I started to panic as I moved from room to room, trying to get someone's help. Why was I not affected? I wondered as I pounded on the double doors to the surgical unit. An orderly in scrubs came to my aid. "Sir, you need to wait," he said stiffly. "No, you don't understand. There's something happening out here. I need to be sure my wife is okay," I said. I pushed past him before he could object and started shouting Cheryl's name. My heart was pounding as I reached the first operating room and burst in without authorization. As much as I was expecting the nightmare to get worse, it was still uncanny to see this group of surgeons, now seemingly unable to make any decision at all as their patient was bleeding out before my eyes. I turned back toward the orderly that was not affected and asked, "Do you have any idea what this might be?" "I don't know. I've never seen anything like it," he admitted as he ran to a red phone on the wall to try and call for help. I moved to the next room but found it locked. On the other side, I could see Cheryl just being put under anesthesia. The surgeons started to gather their instruments, and I shouted to try and get their attention. Another power surge occurred, and I closed my eyes, scared I would be next. I could feel my head vibrating as I turned toward the orderly and asked if he had made contact with anyone. But he was on the floor, shaking violently. I reached for the phone and tried to dial, only to find that white noise was coming from the receiver. I stumbled back to the OR that Cheryl was in and shouted hysterically. The surgeons had just begun to cut into her chest when this strange affliction hit them. They were frozen in place with my wife's chest open, blood pouring out nonstop as I heard the machine reach a flatline. I slammed on the door in desperation, not wanting to lose her, but it was pointless. The decision had been made for me. I collapsed in a heap of tears, shaking as I tried to understand what was happening. Was this a virus? A terrorist attack? I had no clue. Then, beyond the hospital walls, I heard car alarms, the sound of screeching tires. I managed to pick myself up and move toward a window to see what was happening. 18-wheelers careening out of control. I even saw a helicopter falling from the sky. It burst into flame in the hospital parking lot as I realized that whatever had happened here was now suddenly spreading. I stood there a moment longer, watching the destruction play out. Then the power went out again, and I lost consciousness. My own free will was taken from me. When I woke up, a day had passed. The news reported nothing about the strange event. It was as if it had never happened, and the deaths and destruction were ignored. Except that I know that my wife died on the operating table. That can't be erased. I don't know what strange event happened here, but it scares me to death that it might happen again. The loss of will spreading and destroying more lives. What if we soon have no free will at all? I can't think of anything more terrifying. Last night at around 10 p.m., my boyfriend and I were sitting in the living room trying to find a movie to watch on Amazon Prime Video. We have video surveillance cameras everywhere outside. There are two that point to the front door at different angles, one for the backyard and one for the side of the house. The monitor screen is kept in the living room on a table next to the recliner that I was sitting in. I just sat down for not even 5 minutes. Then I heard a child's voice come over the monitor. The voice said hello. I thought to myself for a minute, does my son have his bedroom window open and is yelling through the window for some reason, and the camera is picking it up because there is a camera next to his bedroom window? Then I remembered. No, it can't be, because he was sleeping in my bed. I called up to him, and he answered. I look at the monitor screen, and I see a man who appears to be very tall. He was wearing a red and white flannel shirt. He was holding a little girl's hand. She looked like she had striped long sleeves with frizzy blonde hair. They were walking up the steps to get into our entryway, and I turned to my boyfriend and said, "Somebody is here. We live in the middle of absolute nowhere. We live near a swamp. My closest neighbors are bears and coyotes, and a couple Amish houses about a mile or so down the road. So there are never any people, at least that we know of, who go walking down our street, pitch black with no streetlights, on a back road at 10 p.m. at night, so it seemed very strange to us. Just as the man and the girl get to our front door, my boyfriend opens the door, and they are gone. Not a single trace or sign of them. My boyfriend went outside by the road to see if he could see any cars, but there were none. We thought maybe they were having car trouble and stopped for help, but there were no signs of that being a possibility. I let the dog outside, and my boyfriend went outside with a flashlight, but nothing was there. We watched the camera footage, and the people coming to the door were never recorded. We reviewed old camera footage and saw nothing that looked or sounded like that. We don't even know people that look like that, or have ever met anybody that could have possibly come over that looked like that. My boyfriend does not believe in ghosts, but seeing that we had no explanation for it, I think he changed his mind. We have lived in this house for 4 years, and I personally have never experienced anything until last night. My boyfriend admitted that the one night I was at work, he saw something moving in the yard and thought it was an animal. He went out to look, and nothing was there but my son's tire swing, which was swinging back and forth like crazy. My son has been complaining for the past few months that he doesn't like to sleep in his bed because it sounds like something is crawling around under it, and his bed shakes. The original part of the house was built in the 1800s and was used as an old school house. An addition was put on the house 20 years ago to make it bigger. The old schoolmaster used to live across the street in a house that is no longer there. I talked to my boyfriend today, and we both said that what happened was really weird, and we've come to terms with it, probably being a ghost sighting. I know I'm not crazy because he saw them and heard the voice too. I've seen many ghosts in my lifetime. I just wondered what took so long for me to see one here. What bothers me is that it seemed like they wanted to get my attention, and it makes me feel very uneasy. In the days leading up to this, I would sit in the living room and just feel overwhelming dread and terrible anxiety. After seeing them, I don't feel any of that anymore. So, weird. This is my first time posting on Reddit, so please forgive me if I don't get the format right. To start, in my culture, we avoid saying ghosts, especially the particular ghosts' names. For example, in Western culture, there's the banshee, the woman in white, the boogeyman, and stuff like that. In my culture, I'm Malaysian. We have ghosts like Pontianak, Hokong, Toyul, and Langswar, among others. Saying their names out loud is said to summon them. I love ghost stories, but not the Western kind. I love Asian ghost stories. Perhaps because that's what I grew up with. I find them spookier than Western ghosts, due to the language barrier. There are not a lot of Malaysian ghost stories available in English. So 6 years ago, I started a YouTube channel where I read ghost stories that are mainly from Southeast Asia. I would record my voice reading the stories at home, of course. Since I was living with another girl at the time, she also happened to be my colleague. We were working at a customer service call center that operates 24 hours a day, and our shift rotates weekly. Our 2-bedroom apartment was so small that there was barely any privacy when it came to noise. So I would usually only record when my roommate was out. I didn't want to bother her with my voice, and I would prefer not to have sounds from her going about her life in my recording. One time, my roommate was working the overnight shift. She left around 8 o'clock in the evening, and I just got home from work 2 hours prior, so I decided to record my second video. About half an hour after my roommate left for work, I started recording in my bedroom. I think it was a little bit more than halfway through the second story when I heard someone entering the apartment, which was weird since her shift should at least take about 8.5 hours. I thought that if she came home early, it would be more than likely that she was not feeling well. So I went to check on her. When I went to look for her, she was nowhere to be found. The only logical explanation was that the sound was from the next door unit. So I went back to recording. Not more than 15 minutes later, I heard the sound of a chair being pulled from under the dining table, followed by water running in our shower room just seconds later. Confident I was home alone, I went to check it. My bedroom door was facing directly toward the shower room door. As soon as I opened my bedroom door, I had a clear view of the open shower door, revealing a dark shower room. At this point, I was getting nervous. My thoughts were all over the place. I froze for a bit before I decided to look into the shower. The sound of water running can still be heard. When I flicked the shower room light switch on, the shower was running, but there was no one in there. I turned off the shower and went looking for my roommate again. Maybe I missed her the first time, but still, I found nobody in the apartment. I was a little nervous, but I was determined to continue recording. I wanted to be a YouTuber, and I hope one day I can quit my job and tell ghost stories full time. So I did. I finished recording the stories and went straight into editing. Around 1:0, I needed a toilet break. As you can see in the attached diagram, the toilet is separate from the shower and can only be accessed through the kitchen. After I had done my business, while I was passing through the kitchen, I could hear a giggle from the living room. That stopped me in my tracks. I had a clear view of the well-lit living room. There was obviously no one there. At this point, I knew I was not alone. I ran into my bedroom and locked the door behind me. I hid under my covers, and that's when I heard something trying to open my bedroom door. It went on for what felt like forever. I fell asleep, and for some reason, I finished editing my story and posted it a few days later. Everything quieted down for a little while, so I decided to record another story. This time, I was recording during the daytime. It was my off day and my housemate was out shopping or something. Everything went smoothly. So smoothly that I was able to post the video by the time my housemate came home. That night, we decided to watch a movie together. Before we started the movie, I went into the kitchen to make myself some snacks while my roommate picked a movie. Our TV is on the same wall that divides the living room from my bedroom, with the sofa right across from it. So you can see the kitchen door and shower room door when sitting on the sofa. As I was coming out of the kitchen, I asked my roommate if she had found a movie. She was looking at me with a surprised look. "Didn't you just go into the shower room like 30 seconds ago?" she asked. I just shook my head and went to sit. The topic died there, and we picked a Malaysian horror comedy movie. Midway through the movie, our shower room door whipped open violently, and we heard what sounded like a giggle. My roommate decided to sleep in my room that night. That was the last time we watched anything related to ghosts. Since then, I often hear furniture being moved, giggle, and see shadows moving in my peripherals. But when I turn to look, there is nothing, sometimes even when my roommate is home. She has also experienced some spooky stuff in the apartment, like her back being tapped by something while she was in the kitchen, hearing my voice calling her name when I was not home, and a shadow running from the kitchen into the shower room while she was watching TV in the living room. We stayed there for a few more months, until my roommate quit her job to move back to her hometown, and I decided to move in with another colleague. The new house was much larger. It was a 3-story house. I stopped recording ghost stories for a while after that. Even though I love ghost stories, I do not particularly like experiencing one. It took me about 8 or 9 months before I had the courage to record another ghost story. It was not a very good idea. I will post about that one soon. And if you are wondering, why am I sharing this story now? Apparently, even after I stopped recording ghost stories, I still encounter supernatural activity, so I might as well share it anyway. Hey guys, I'm a first-time poster. Everyone I tell this story to says it's the creepiest thing they have heard, so I thought I would share. I was the biggest non-believer in ghosts. Now I believe. Enjoy. When I was 14, me and my friend, let's call him Tom, stayed at our other friends, let's call him Josh, house. Josh had recently moved into this house, and there are already a few creepy notes around the house. The context. It is in the middle of nowhere. There are 3 houses close to each other, then nothing but fields, forests, and farms for miles. The 3 houses are Josh's, a house that belongs to 2 white witches, and a bed and breakfast, where a man used to live. However, 3 years ago, he hung himself in the bedside, and the police only found him when Josh's dog kept barking outside the bedside, and there was a weird smell coming from it. Every single person who lives in this house has had a paranormal experience of some kind. The brother claims that one night a week, roughly, his shower will turn on, and he will hear someone whistling a tune, the same tune every time. Then the shower will turn off. Then the shower will turn off. The whistling will continue for about a minute, then nothing. The mom, and this is the one that creeped me out, says she sees a woman in the corner of her room some nights. She has to turn the light on, and the stepdad will sit with her until the woman has gone. The nan, when staying in the spare room, says she always sees the same shadow woman by the window in that room. So it's not uncommon to hear a scary story at this house. As a non-believer, I found excuses for each one, such as old pipes or just mistaking shadows. The mom's one did scare me a bit though, as I had no explanation. Maybe dreaming. Josh's room is said to be safe. No one's had an experience in that room and nothing weird ever happens there. So I never used to mind staying in the house if I stayed in his room. I may have been a non-believer, but I sure wasn't willing to take my chances. The house had an old cellar that has 4 tunnels stretching off either side, and they can't find the plans for where these tunnels go. The cellar is always freezing cold to the point where you can see your breath. And whenever it gets opened, the dogs go crazy with barking. The house is creepy as hell, with everyone having paranormal experiences. But I am a non-believer and would stay over as long as I was in Josh's room with him. The story. Me and Tom stayed over for the night, and both chose to stay in Josh's room as there was plenty of space. Everything was normal. A bit of gaming and late night chat about girls. Nothing out of the ordinary. We fell asleep fairly early, with Josh and Tom in a bunk bed, Tom on the top bunk, and me on the floor. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps climbing the stairs. It unnerved me instantly because of the nature of the footsteps. They were very sharp and loud, and the steps would be climbed all the way to the top, and then it would start from the bottom again. In my head, I had visions of their cat climbing up the stairs, then sliding down the banister to the bottom and starting again. Their cat had a bed at the top of the stairs and always, without fail, slept in that bed. The family tried to make the cat stay with them, but he would always ask to leave and go to his bed. It also could not be the dogs, as they were not allowed upstairs and were normally on the opposite side of the house in their beds. So the cat was the only plausible answer for me. However, it was so loud that I did doubt myself a lot and was nervous. Could a cat really make that much noise? After about 10 minutes of the footsteps, I remember calling out quietly to Tom and Josh to see if I should go check on the cat, but neither replied to me. So I decided, fuck it, let's check. I got up from the bed and walked to the bedroom door, and just before I put my hand on the doorknob, the room went. Ice. Cold. I had something, and I don't know what it was. But something stopped me from opening the door. Maybe a gut instinct? Maybe someone told me it was a bad idea. All I know is that I felt something I had never felt in my life before. Something horrible. And with that, I realized something. The footsteps had stopped. I could visibly see my breath in front of me, and I was frozen in place. I felt like something was behind the door, but I didn't know what. I couldn't turn on the light as it was by Tom on the other side of the room. And I was frozen, so I couldn't get there. I just waited. I will remember the feeling until the day I die. A feeling of dread. I slowly retreated back to my bed once I found my feet. I hid myself in my sleeping bag, keeping my eyes firmly on the door. The temperature of the room returned to normal. I was warm again. And most importantly, the footsteps continued again. I stared at the door all night. Eventually, I passed out. I woke up in the morning and the door was open. I could smell bacon being cooked downstairs, and everything seemed normal. I eyed up the landing but realized there was no dread in me. Nothing. Everything was back to normal. I went downstairs and saw Tom sitting at the table and Josh making breakfast. "How did you sleep?" Josh asked. I decided to be brutally honest, just in case it's happened before to Josh. I said, "I heard footsteps all night. Loud. Did anyone else hear them?" Josh looked slightly shocked and gestured over to Tom while mentioning that Tom had brought it up earlier this morning. I remember looking properly at Tom, who looked scared. He didn't answer, so I explained more. I did call out to you guys to ask, but no one answered, so I assumed only I heard it. I remember Tom, eyes fixed on the table, interrupting with, "And you got up to check it." "Yeah, I know." I explained I was going to, but everything felt horrible, didn't it? Cold, like someone had thrown ice-cold water over us. I thought you were going to open the door, but something inside me felt like if you did, something terrible was going to happen. I was shocked. He felt it too. It wasn't me being crazy. I asked him why he didn't say anything. He said he was frozen to the core. What he said next scared me the most. What would we have seen if you had opened that door? Sometimes your imagination can get the better of you. Who knows what I would have seen? Maybe the cat heard me get up and came to check up on me. "Hello, boys." Josh's mom had come in. "Josh, you'll never believe what happened last night. We actually had Harry, their cat, come in to sleep with us." I felt sick. The cat wasn't in the bed for the first time since they lived there. So it wasn't the cat. It was definitely something else. Who was climbing the stairs? Whoever it was, they heard me coming, and if I had opened the door, what would they have done to me? Who protected me? I will never know. Follow on notes. Tom never stayed there again. It took me 6 years, but I stayed there when I was 20 for his 21st birthday party. Nothing unusual happened,